We must remember that Christian devotion never, in practice, separates the accidents of bread from the substance of Christ under the sacramental species. The sacrament is an integral unity, and it is also a sensible thing. The adoration that is offered to the Blessed Eucharist is offered to Jesus Christ, who is really present in the sacrament. And the fact that his body does not suffer when the accidents of bread are broken would be no reason for treating the sacramental species with carelessness or indifference. They are to be respected for the sake of him whom they contain and whom we adore in them. If all the creatures of God are good and holy because they have felt the touch of his creative hand, how much more holy are those humble material elements which the divine power has elevated to so sublime a function as that of playing an instrumental part in his work of sanctification. And above all, what reverence ought we to have for the plain, humble species which he has deigned to take as his sacred vesture in coming to us as the food of our souls. At the same time, we must carry this sense of the unity of the sacramental being still further. The Eucharist is not a symbol of something greater than itself. It is not merely a sign of the body of Christ. It is the body of Christ. This cannot be repeated too often. Hence, we do not have to strain our minds or our imaginations to see through the sacrament. Eucharistic contemplation is not a game of hide and seek in which, if we find the secret formula of prayer, we can unveil the hidden Christ. This mistake is harmful for our own souls and pays no real honor to the Blessed Sacrament. Indeed, it implies a fundamental misconception of what the sacrament is. It presupposes that the sacrament is a being which conceals another being, and this other reality is the natural presence of Christ. By no means. As St. Thomas says, our bodily eye is prevented from a direct vision of Christ's body through those sacramental species under which it exists, not only as through a kind of cover, as we cannot see what is hidden through some bodily veil, but because Christ's body bears a relation to the medium which surrounds this sacrament, not through its own accidents, but through the sacramental species. And Dom Vanier adds that the sacraments of the new law are by no means the weak and lowly elements which St. Paul scorned, that is to say, veils of higher realities. They are not veiling anything, but they are complete realities in themselves, existing in their own right. There is nothing like the sacraments in heaven or on the earth, and it would be a great disparagement of their character to look upon them as mere veils of more substantial spiritual realities. He adds that the sacraments are not substitutes for anything else, and the sacramental presence of Christ is not a cloak for his natural presence. Indeed, he points out that if Christ were naturally present on the altar at the moment of consecration, the sacrament would lose its meaning, its truth, and its reason for existing. Christ is present under the appearance of bread, and not in his own natural presence, precisely in order to safeguard the truth and mystery of the sacrament. His presence must be such that it is essentially invisible, that it transcends all the powers of our interior and exterior senses, and is accessible only to our faith. One is justified in saying that it is the very condition of the sacramental presence to transcend all vision and all experience, even of the highest order, because there is really no kind of perceptive power in man, or even in the angel, corresponding to that state of being which is properly the sacramental state. Vanier here seems to agree with those Thomist theologians who hold that even a miracle would never enable us to perceive the true body of Christ in this sacrament with our bodily eyes, simply because there is no way in which a substance can be seen with the eyes. We must see him with the eyes of our spirit, illuminated by loving faith.